travel specialist at Departures Travel Sydney, and I am here with the agency owners, Kathy Scott and Kathy Larson. There's Kathy Scott and Kathy Larson. And tonight, since we're all sort of grounded because of COVID, we all are missing travel very much. But the one huge thing for me with travel is food, ingredients, and cooking, and watching people cooking in their sort of bakeries or in their restaurants. And so tonight I decided I'd do a bit of a Moroccan themed meal, and I'm going to prepare some chicken tagine, and I have a few other things I prepared earlier that we'll talk about later. But right now, just to get things rolling and get the dish into the oven, I will start with very simple recipe. I'm just going to pour a bit of olive oil into my pot, not too much, as more is going in a little while. And all I'm going to start with is I'm going to do some onions just to get the recipe going. And I just cook these for about 5 minutes. And once this is done, the chicken will go in. And tagine is a very common dish in Morocco. There's all sorts of different types. They have dried fruit, some of them. Some of them are just simple with preserved lemons. And that's the type of recipe I'm doing today. It's just a simple lemon tagine, or a chicken tagine with preserved lemons and just some really nice spices. It'll have some turmeric, some ginger, cumin seed, and then some really nice cinnamon. The cinnamon I actually bought recently when I was in Sri Lanka, just before our travel world shut down. But whenever I travel, that's one of the things I do frequently, is I buy a lot of spices and also cookbooks and that. But right now, we're sticking with Moroccan. And
now, Theresa, a tagine is the name of the food, but it's also the name of the dish.
Yeah, the actual ceramic pot that the dish is cooked in.
Wasn't
right
that beautiful?
Now, I don't have a tagine. This is one, it can't be used this evening. It's not like the tagine I brought back from Morocco. It got cracked on the trip home, so in lieu of using a tagine, I use a crusade pot, a really heavy pot with a super heavy lid so that no steam escapes. And that's really the tagine. The steam goes up and then it rolls back into the dish, and that's really how the tagine works, and it gets this beautiful tenderized meat and very flavorful. And so I don't have that, but so now again, this is a really super easy dish. So I've I've just softened the onions up, and not a lot of them. And they're actually supposed to be white onions, but I had some really great onions from the farmer's market, so I'm using red. And also the onions that are typically available have all been pulled from the shelf because of some problems down in some of the farms in the US where BC gets their produce from. So all I do now is I put in the chicken, and you don't brown it. The tagine meat is not brown, so it's more. It would be sort of the equivalent to us braising. Like we sort of know it more by braising. And
so is chicken a typical?
Yeah, chicken is typical tagine, and it's just. I needed to have two-footed animals this evening. So so chicken it is, and again, you leave the chicken in for about 5 minutes, and you just keep stirring it around so that it doesn't brown. So you keep moving around a bit, but let it start to cook a little. And then once this is done, we will add the spices, and then a bit of water to cover the chicken, and then some of the preserved lemons. And that's really, for this particular tagine, the preserved lemons are a crucial ingredient, and they're available they may not be in your grocery store necessarily, but there's usually some kind of Mediterranean deli in a lot of communities, and you can typically find them there, or they can be ordered on Amazon. I don't like to promote Amazon over buying local, but sometimes there's no choice. In Victoria, we have a really great Mediterranean deli and shop called The Fig, and they have them, and what's really nice is they have they sell the smaller jars because you don't use a lot of them, and often you end up maybe throwing some out because they've really discolored, they've oxidized, but they have the really nice sized jars that are more realistic when you're not cooking Moroccan all the time. And so I'm just gonna flip this around a little bit more. And
It smells really good.
well, it's just onion and chicken right now, but yeah, and
I know they do lamb.
yeah, they do lamb. They do a lot of different types of tagines, but and they sort of a lot of the same themes where you have like dried fruits, like maybe prunes or dried apricots or dates. And so really, once you get the basic tagine down, you can do all sorts of things with them, and it's easy. And that's what I really like about Moroccan. You can put together a really nice meal very quickly, and people will think you're an amazing cook. So.
Well, we think you're an amazing cook.
I'm pretty sure you are, judging by your spice coverage.
So, yeah, well, the spices are important, of course.
Where's your spice cupboard?
Oh, it's organized. It doesn't look it, but it is a.
So you pick up a lot of your spices when you're traveling.
Yeah, I do, and so I keep them in jars. I keep them in the dark, and they're India, the Middle East is really great for picking up spices, and then I've got a bunch more sort of oddities down below. But I go through so much because we just cook a lot of different types of food.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, if there's here's an indication of your cookbooks. And now, are these all? No, these are all just travel trinkets and.
yeah, there's a lot of travel trinkets in the den, but there are a lot of cookbooks. Like there's 4 shelves there, and there's more shelves over there. So there's probably about 4, maybe, I don't know, 300 or 400 books in here, cookbooks.
And then you had to have these specially made
Yeah,
for all your other
yeah.
round the world cookbooks.
Yeah, that's a big part of travel. Of course, for me, it's buying spices, finding a great restaurant, and trying things, even if it turns out being horrible, which I did actually recently in the South Pacific. There's a very popular fish, and what happens is everyone was eating it in this restaurant. I thought, I have to have this. It's this white fish. And so I ordered it, and I waited, and I took a mouthful, and it was so bitter. It was definitely an acquired taste. And I thought, oh, maybe that piece wasn't quite right. And I took another bite, and it was as horrifying as the previous bite. And so I just sort of played, fork and knife hockey with the fish to make it look like I had eaten it. But anyhow, that doesn't happen with Moroccan food, though. It is just, it's so simple. It's, you know, like a lot of Mediterranean foods, very simple, not a lot of ingredients, and just healthy. And you know, there's a lot of medicinal characteristics to some of the spices in that as well. Good for aiding digestion, you know, inflammation, all sorts of things. So really quite an interesting sort of grouping of spices in this. You girls are, so what I'm going to do now is I have, this is ginger. Usually I use fresh, but I didn't want to deviate too far from the recipe. And I've got my turmeric. And then there are cumin seeds and a little bit of cumin powder. I just like a touch more cumin flavor. And then my cinnamon.
Oh my gosh, this smells amazing.
Yeah, and so I'm just, and now you just sort of flip it around a little bit. And then once that's done, I'm going to add, the next thing that goes in is, it's olive oil, and it's just got some minced garlic in it, and that goes in. And this is almost ready to sort of pop into the oven. So, and what I do is I'm just going to stir this up a bit more, and now all that happens here is I add water to almost cover the chicken, and because it has the bone in and that, it will develop a really nice flavor on its own. And I just have to grab a measuring cup. I knew I'd forget something. That goes in right away here. Yep. Okay, so we're just adding the water. And now the most important ingredient, I think, well actually they're all really just nice ingredients, but the preserved lemon is where you get, it's that flavor that you taste when you're out in Morocco and you think, geez, there's something in there and I just can't quite place it. Well, the preserved lemon is what is going to really give you a nice flavor. It's very subtle, but it's there. And more gets added after it's cooked for a while. So what I'm going to do now, this is literally a chicken tagine is ready for the oven. And so that's how easy it is to, so that is how easy it is to prepare a tagine. So the only thing I've missed is I do need a little bit of salt. I didn't add salt. Sorry, I have to crush some.
Of course you do.
I don't, I haven't bought Cipto salt. Nothing wrong with Cipto salt, but I have not bought Cipto salt for probably 20 plus years. I have Himalayan salt. I have salt from the Ile de Ré in France. I have some from like a river somewhere in Australia. There's a big difference, and some people may think, it's just salt, but it's, I find some of the salts, like from Iceland, that they don't have such a strong flavor on the palate. It's not so, almost acidic, and you don't get that with these other salts. So I'm really not a salt snob. I'm not a salt snob, but I definitely feel that there's a big difference
And
when
so
you're finishing a dish or something. So now literally the lid is going on. It goes into the oven for an hour. That is a tagine, a simple tagine. And and when it's done, people will be very happy that you had them for dinner or gave them the recipe. So I'm just going to pop it in the oven.
So Theresa, back to the salt. What about, have you tried and used our local sea salt here?
No.
Okay.
The salt spring salt? Or is there some from Souk as well,
Yeah.
I believe?
Souk, yeah.
I haven't, and mainly because I have, we did a lot of traveling in the last sort of year and a half, and I have a lot of salt in my my pantry right now. But it is on my list because it is local. I think it's wonderful, and I've heard that it's really nice, and so it is on my list. But I just have to get through a few different jars and that. But yeah, I think it's wonderful that in BC, well, especially in the Vancouver Island, there is so much being produced locally now, and on the islands, like not just wine. There's like ciders, there's spirits, there's cheeses, like you name it. We just have such a vibrant community. And slow food community on Vancouver Island. I think it's wonderful, and this sort of is all part of it. It's just doing everything from scratch, which is, to me, that's really what food and meals are all about, is just cooking from scratch and trying different things. Like I've got 2 loaves of bread here that I baked earlier this afternoon. They're very common in Morocco, and I think that they may serve as doorways by the time we get to the meal. But yeah, they're just really simple, white with a bit of whole wheat flour, and they're very typical. And I have no idea what they're going to be like, but we will try. And so the only other thing that's, again, common with the tagine is to do a couscous. And I have a few pine nuts. I just have to chop up a few dried apricots and prepare the couscous, because we do actually have another tagine that's ready to go, because we didn't want people to have to sit on Facebook Live as we all waited for a tagine to cook. So what I'll do is I'll go through the process of finishing off the tagine. I have one here, and I've put in some additional preserved lemons, and all I have to do with this now is cut up some parsley and some cilantro, and so I'll just do that real quick.
Oh my gosh, that smells amazing.
Yeah, and yeah, so I've got everything just sort of ready to chop up here, and I'll try and just sort of fast track it, but get rid of the stems. And so yeah, just when you finish off, a lot of the Moroccan dishes actually you just typically end with a bit of parsley or some cilantro and that, and it really is a quick meal. When you look at this, I always try to come up with meals during the week that are quick but don't taste quick, and a tagine is that. You get home, you throw on a tagine, and you have a bit of couscous, you know, maybe put together. Like there's some really simple salads, like I did a carrot salad, there's some eggplant charmoula, and then just a roasted beet salad. And all it takes, you know, a little bit of planning. The beets roasted, I roasted them last night, and
These look like weapons.
yeah,
They're very hefty.
Yeah, they're actually from New Zealand. We were on a really fascinating geological field trip. And we ended up in a little town, and I came across these in a little gallery, and I have some forks as well, but they're really great, and I just keep them oiled up after I use them, and so lots of fun. That was from our very early days, or my very early days of travel, and so
So you can pretty much find shopping anywhere.
Really, you can, and it's for me, like I wouldn't go to a shopping mall.
No.
But you know, you step into a little gallery in the middle of nowhere and you come home with these
Beautiful.
really wonderful objects, and they're art, but they're functional art. It's really
Yeah, and they tell a story.
yeah, and so it's really quite really nice to have them, and I pull them out when I'm having dinner parties. And but there's just all sorts of things that you can find, and in the most unusual places where you come across things. You know, we were at some horrible like, tourist trap gift shop in the valley. Oh my goodness, I can't remember. In the U.S., the huge.
Oh,
Silicon Valley?
No, the
Napa?
No,
Canyon?
the Grand Canyon. Sorry, the Grand Canyon.
It's too close.
Okay, I mean, obviously, I haven't been traveling enough. I'm losing my mojo. But we went into this like tourist trap gift shop. You know, just a crazy tourist trap gift shop. And I look up and I see there's this basket sitting way up high on a shelf, and it's just coated in spider webs and bug carcasses and stuff. So we got it pulled down, and it turns out it's handmade from the Orinoco River area in South America. Like and that's the thing. Like you travel, and things just, if your eyes are open, you just come across these fascinating things. But me, it's always food related. Like, I never tire of a food market. Everyone else I travel with does, you know, but I will go into every single smelly fish market, every spice, you know, market, you name it, any kind of food, I'll go, no matter the level of hygiene or what's on offer, you know. And I find the whole food thing fascinating. Because it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you know, people eat. And oops, thank you, thank you. And we were in, I think it was in Mozambique, and this group of men were all sitting around. It was the lunch break, and they had this huge stainless steel bowl, and it was full of rice and fish, and they were all eating with their hands, which is the norm. And it was really interesting to watch that community and the sharing of food. And so whenever I travel, food is that great connector. It's like when you see children when you travel. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, a smiling child, they emit the same kind of energy in that. And so, yeah, for me, it's all about food and finding great restaurants that may or may not be in the guidebook, and usually aren't in the guidebook. And yeah, so anyhow, I just get this in, and then I will, then it cooks for a few more minutes, and that will give me time to put together the couscous and get the couscous ready. So I will just drop this in.
And so, Theresa, the two cookbooks that you're using, I'm just going to show them here.
Yes.
Did you purchase both of these in your travels, or are these ones that you've purchased locally?
The larger book, that one I purchased after being in Morocco, and the other one I did purchase. That one I believe I purchased when I was traveling. I do have another book from Morocco I purchased as well, and I use it as a reference more than anything. But yeah, they're both books are really great, and when you use these books, you actually do get it reminds you of what you experienced when you were actually in Morocco, and that's the type of book I like. And I typically buy cookbooks when I travel, because for me the food part is so important. that I like to recreate it when I get home, and particularly if I enjoy the food.
And Moroccan food is really nice.
It is. It's there's this sort of depth of taste, and it's beautifully when you're in a Moroccan restaurant in Morocco, and the food's coming out. They serve it like we'll just have the salad course and the tagine and everything all at once, but you sit and the courses just start coming out, and you enjoy them. And often, if you're in a really authentic restaurant, you are not sitting at a table, you're down on the floor on cushions, and you know, the music is, you know, you've got the music and the decor, all of it, it's this ambiance it's really hard to replicate. It's quite wonderful and magical. And then, you know, if you're in Marrakesh, you may leave and have to walk through, you know, these tiny little alleys through the souk to find your way back out. And we actually had to be walked out by someone once from one restaurant. It was just impossible to find our way back to where we started without having a little bit of guidance from one of the restaurant staff. But it really it's just a great way to remember your travels or these meals, or even seeing people, how they eat, and the culture around food. It's I just find it really such a fascinating part of travel. Yeah, and so I have a lot of cookbooks, and I have some really interesting cookbooks, but some really strange cookbooks that will just never make it to North America, just because they'd never be needed. It might be, I've got a Ghanaian cookbook, and it's just about nutrition and about sort of more modern foods, and so it's quite strange and has a lot of green peas in it, and I have an aversion to green peas. So anyhow, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the water boiling for the couscous, and give the oops, I'll get a different spoon that had raw chicken on it. So, and give this a little stir. Okay, the chicken is well done. Okay, so I've got
Beautiful.
yeah, I hope it get the water for the couscous boiling, and I just have to cut up a couple dried apricots. Oh, and I have to finish a salad. I had to wait right to the last moment. Can I do something? Well, do you want to cut up a few just into tiny little pieces?
Sure, can do.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, you can come around. And I will just cut them into really small pieces. I can get you a smaller knife if you don't want that giant weapon. Okay, and so I do have one salad I'll finish up here. It's this one's really neat. It has orange blossom water in the dressing. And again, just really super simple. Yeah, smaller. It's a romaine, orange, and walnut salad with a orange blossom dressing, and it just gets done right at the last minute because the dressing, the salad would become, the lettuce would become really soft. So I just have to break up the pieces a little bit here, and then once that's done, I'll just dress it in a bit of the orange blossom dressing, and the orange blossom water, and actually rose water as well. Those are super common in a lot of recipes, and for example, I made some cookies that we'll be having for dessert called gariba, and it's a semolina flour cookie, and you have to form them with your hands, and it's quite sticky in that. So I read, I've got this tiny little Moroccan cookbook I actually bought in Morocco, and in that I found the tip where you use either orange blossom water or rose water, and you dip in your hands, and then you roll the cookie, and so you have either a rose water or orange blossom water scent on the cookie, which is really nice. So we'll be having those for dessert later.
Yay.
Yeah,
So
and
what's in that dressing?
It has lemon juice, there's orange blossom water, there is some paprika, a bit of cinnamon. There's cinnamon in a lot of dishes, and that is about it. And sugar. This one has to be sweet. It's this particular recipe. Perfect. Smaller? No, that's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, this is going into the couscous. Normally, you can just serve couscous sort of as is, just plain. But we just happen to really like pine nuts and dried apricots in our couscous. So that is what we're going to be doing. And I just putting this on. And and this, really interesting flavor because of the orange blossom water. And I just want to stir this up a little bit and then make room for the oranges. Yeah, and you can see there's speckles in that, and that is the cinnamon. And it's really quite wonderful. And then just some segmented in skin segments of orange. And I'll just fill these in here, and people can grab whatever they like. And I'll just pour the bit of juice that was left. And I have some, chopped walnuts that go on as well. And again, you can see there's really only a few ingredients in this salad, but it's incredibly fresh, really healthy. I think there's like 1 tablespoon of olive oil, if that. I just can't recall if I have used olive oil or not on this one. But it's, some nuts, a bit of lettuce, and some orange segments, so very healthy.
And beautiful too.
Yeah, and so literally, once you've cleaned up the salad, the lettuce, and the oranges, you saw how quick it came together. So it's super easy, and it's got a very unusual flavor. It's something we don't often encounter, and so it's just a nice change. And the orange blossom water, I just love it. It just imparts such a wonderful flavor on things. So now I'm just going to quickly see if my water is boiling for the couscous.
Now your orange blossom water, is that something you bought locally, or was that something you brought back?
Yeah, actually, there's the rose and orange blossom water, and those are actually, again, those are available at the Fig in Victoria, but really some grocery stores do carry them, and it's really so common. It would be like us. I'm just trying to think of sort of a typical North American kitchen, what that would be equivalent to. Maybe like a vinegar in a salad dressing,
Or Worcestershire sauce?
yeah, like something like that. It's very common and just fantastic. And because it is so unique, the flavors are just so unique.
And once you open it, does it keep for a bit in the fridge?
Oh yeah, it does. I pop it into the fridge. I've just opened those both. And yeah, they stay quite a while actually. And okay, so and just give my couscous a little stir. Cover it, and we just wait a few minutes now.
Yeah, couscous is pretty quick,
Yeah.
right?
So it's 5 minutes. So I'm just going to put a timer on in case I mess up with that. But and so now we've got the apricots and we have the pine nuts. Now the pine nuts, we are pine nut snobs in this household. If they're not pinyon pine nuts from the southwest of the U.S., then we get ours from the Middle East. We buy them actually at a little shop in Jordan.
Of course you do.
So we actually try and we do try and plan some of our journeys around ingredients, and they are so delicious. Once you've tasted them, you'll never go back to grocery store pine nuts, but absolutely wonderful. And I mean, these pine nuts, I need to try one. Okay, there, grab some. They are different. They have a much richer flavor, and they're, yeah.
They're delicious.
They are. It's completely different than the ones you get at the grocery store.
They don't bite you back,
No, these are,
right?
Yeah.
yeah, they're absolutely
Kind of
delicious.
smoky.
Yeah, they're just, they're about double the size of the pine nuts you typically get at the grocery store. And we covet them. I know we're not supposed to covet things, but we only bring them out for, fine dining
Special guests.
and special guests. So, yeah, so anyhow, I'm going to just see what happens with that bread I made earlier. It's I don't know how to say it. It's Khobz. It's Khobz, and when I pulled it out of the oven, it was so hard that I slathered it in butter to try and give it sort of a nicer feel. I felt that someone might actually shatter a tooth on it. So we don't want to do that to our guests. So I'm going to attempt the bread, and we'll see what happens. And if it doesn't work, okay, let's just see. And actually,
Looks lovely.
yeah, it looks like it has a nice texture. So I'll cut up some pieces and pop them into a basket, and we'll see. And this bread has sesame seeds and anise seeds in it. So just for a little bit of flavor, that's typical what goes in.
And is this recipe out of one of these two books that you used?
Yes, it
Okay.
is. It's in the smaller of the two. Yes, the one called Couscous. And I'm not sure what.
There it is.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So,
Just in case anybody wants to recreate.
I think that's a copyright infringement. Oh. Anyhow, it looks like the bread may have turned out, which I'm pleased. It was a case of trying to find a warm spot when we desperately needed to have air conditioning on today. And so baking bread, when you have to have your air conditioning blasting, doesn't really bode well for trying to get a dough and a yeast to work properly. So I should.
It looks like it turned out beautifully.
Yeah, I hope it did, and you guys can let me know what it actually tastes like. I'll let you guys go first.
Oh, thank you.
And so that's about it. I'm just waiting for the couscous, and then we'll pop in the dried apricots and the pine nuts, and then I think we will be able to get ready to sit down. Again, typically there's a salad course first, but just to keep within our time frame, we are going to have, it's a carrot salad, and super easy, just steam the carrots. There's a bit of paprika, a little bit of cinnamon, and a little bit of cumin, and some lemon juice, and a little bit of olive oil. Super easy. And then that's eggplant. It's baked and dry fried, and with chermoula sauce. And then that's just roasted beets. They're so nice right now, the beets. And it has a touch of cinnamon, a little bit of olive oil, just a few things. I can't remember all the ingredients now. My brain is just
But we can share them
Yes.
with everyone, yeah.
Yeah, we can absolutely. I can share some of the information. And then the salad that we just put together right now, with the orange blossom water dressing and some walnuts and some maple oranges. And of course, it would be nice to have Moroccan oranges, but we not in season here right now, but still really nice oranges. And the bread, and my couscous timer just went off. So what I will do is I will just sort of throw together the rest of the couscous, and then we will enjoy a meal. And hopefully you've enjoyed this session, and I'd love to hear what you thought. And also, if there's any foods you'd like us to try and cook, I'm game. And that's it. So thank you, everyone, and thank you, Kathy Scott and Kathy Larson, for joining me. And I hope you enjoyed the meal.
Well, we're both really excited.
I'm sure that we will.
We're very excited to try it, and thanks for doing this, Theresa.
Oh,
and,
this is
great.
We look forward to many more.
I hope so. We'll bye. Good night, everyone.
Good night.